I once had someone tell me that getting to know me is like trying to scale a castle wall where there is a moat and alligators, only to get over the wall and discover that it's just a field of flowers inside. I tend to be a very private person despite making this video, so a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about today are not even things I have shared with family and friends. And before I get into these social norms that I'm breaking, I just want you to know that if you are choosing to participate in any of things, no judgment to you. We are all just on our own journey. And I'm hoping that some of you will relate to some of these things and maybe not feel so alone. The first thing is that I am child free. I definitely envisioned having kids for my life when I was growing up, but my mom passed away suddenly when I was 28. And it's really hard to explain, but in the moment when they told us that she was for sure going to pass away in the hospital, I just had this moment where I knew intuitively that I also would not be having kids. And about 2 years after she died, I learned that I had stage 4 endometriosis and would need a complete hysterectomy. And that was a lot of loss to process in a couple of years. I do really love kids, and even though I've taken a different path, I can't help but hope that one of my siblings has kids so I will have someone to spoil. I do feel lucky that I've been able to come to terms with this not being part of my life rather than really pining for that experience. The next thing is that I am married to a man, which is not the social norm that I'm breaking. You can see our wedding photo right there. But I am the primary earner in our relationship, and I actually like it that way, and this is by far the one that no one in my family or friend group can really understand. But from my perspective, this has come with a lot of benefits. My only regret really is that I let the expectations and opinions of other people determine what was right for my relationship for so long. Instead of just recognizing that we each brought the strengths that we needed to our relationship, it just looked different than it looks for other people. Kind of on that note, a couple of years into our marriage, my husband and I adopted this kind of radical no obligations policy. And that basically means if we don't want to do something, then we don't do it. I've mentioned this here and there, and the follow-up is always like, well, everybody has to do things that they don't want to do, right? And I would argue no. And the examples they'll give is going to work, doing the dishes, that kind of thing. But all of those examples, you are making a conscious trade-off. And so by framing everything and aiming to live an obligation-free life, it's helped us have a life that feels full and meaningful, even though we say no to a lot of things. I have learned everything I know for my job, which is in creative strategy, marketing, graphic design, that kind of thing, on YouTube or from someone that I work with. When it came down to going to college, picking a degree, all of that, I could not bear the thought of going to another 4 years of school, especially if I had to learn about subjects that I wasn't interested in. And I just had this inner sense that I would be able to make my life work with my creativity rather than getting a degree. And it has truly panned out. There have been times where I wondered if I missed out on the experience of college, but when you think about it like a business decision for your life in terms of ROI, I really put a big bet on myself, and I am glad that things worked out the way they did. This next one has been really difficult actually to get my lifestyle to match my values, and this is that I have stopped shopping for fun. It is so tough, especially in a consumerism-driven society, if you have any disposable income, to stop shopping. I think especially with the chaos of the last couple of years, I don't know about you, but for me, the idea of a package coming in the mail was all that I was hanging on to some of the days there. But when it got out of control, it gave me an opportunity to really reevaluate and figure out, okay, even if I could buy all these things, that's not really the kind of person that I want to be. This year I'm doing a really strict no buy, which means I am really not bringing anything new into my house whatsoever, even if it's something that is thrifted. And it feels like my brain is resetting. It's kind of crazy, but I am really liking it, and I hope it's something that I can continue for the rest of the year, and then I'll be able to have a much better sense of what I actually need and have much better habits moving forward. This one is interesting because I'm not even sure how it got to be such a societal norm, but traveling for fun, like taking several trips a year. I cannot imagine doing that, partly because travel stresses me out. I don't really find it relaxing, but it always comes up in conversation, like, where are you going this summer? What are your travel plans? Do you have any places that you're going this year? And there are places that I want to visit eventually, but as a regular kind of expected thing that you are traveling and taking vacations, that is not necessary to have a fulfilled life. I will never go on another diet again. I've been overweight since I was about 11, and if you haven't had the experience of being overweight and being put on diets or trying out different diets, being introduced to different diets for a significant portion of your life, then I don't think you can quite understand what it does to you psychologically. For me, from the age of about 11 to 31, so 20 years of my young life was so completely dominated by changing what I was eating with the goal of being smaller. And not only did they not work, but they usually backfired. So I went to a lot of therapy and did a lot of inner work to get to a place where I can comfortably say that I will never create rules around what I'm eating specifically for the purpose of being smaller again. The last thing is I am not planning on ever really retiring. I think this is another thing that is heavily influenced by my mom passing away, because she was 51 when she died, and me being 34. I don't plan on dying when I'm 51, but I can't help but just be aware that I might not have as much time as I assume left. And I'm not saying that I want to work a 9 to 5 until I die, but I will always be engaged in some kind of creative work or business until I die, I think, just because I love it so much and it doesn't honestly feel like work to me. I'm like one of those dogs that needs like 16 hours of enrichment per day. I just am this way. I was an entrepreneurial little kid. I sold soap as my very first business. I've just always been this way, and it's something that I can't imagine ever just not doing. Rejecting societal norms, I think, is a great place to start if you want to try living a more slow, intentional life. I often think about how much of our life and what we expect out of it is marketed to us rather than something that we genuinely want for ourselves. It's so easy to believe that you have to participate in all of this stuff to have a fulfilled life, but that's really not true. Even with this YouTube channel, I just realized over the last couple weeks that I was doing everything to fit a version of what someone else told me it should be, rather than really following my gut. I think I needed to work up the courage to do what I actually wanted to do. So while I still love to talk about gardening and canning and all of that, I really feel like my deeper purpose in life is to help people live a more enjoyable and peaceful life, and I hope that you will join me on that journey.